See a little light there? When when that goes out, it stopped recording. See how these guys have done? Jeez, they're busy, man. It's a good project, though. I enjoy it. What's your real name?
Robert Paul Kinker, K-I-N-K-E-R. It's the only name I've been known by, except when I was adopted. I was only 3 months old.
Okay. When were you born?
8, 12, 15.
Okay, Bob, you are on tape number 29.
Okay.
Keep this with your stuff, and 100 years from now, when you're
When I come back?
Yeah.
Okay.
when your descendants find that, they'll go down to the public library there and
Okay.
take a look at you. Okay, Bob, you told me your name and your date of birth, and what is your address?
1821 Highland Avenue, Portsmouth, Ohio.
Okay, and where were you born?
Portsmouth, Ohio.
Okay, and now we're in my office here now, and that's just a few blocks over from where you work. And what is your occupation?
I am Judge Kirsch's bailiff.
Okay,
For juvenile court.
all right. And what's the address of your occupation?
602 7th Street, room 202, I think.
It's the
Second floor.
Sauter County Courthouse,
Sauter County Courthouse, correct.
Portsmouth, Ohio. Okay. Now, how much education do you have?
Formally, I have a high school diploma. I also have approximately about 2 years worth of college work.
Okay.
No degree, no associate's degree or anything.
Are you married, single, divorced, widowed,
Married.
separated, or all the above?
Married,
Okay.
third time.
Okay, third time married. Now, do you have any children?
Yes, I have
What are
two.
what are their names?
David Matthew Kinker.
How old is David?
David is born in 75, so that makes him
27, something like that.
26. He'll be 27 in September.
Okay. Does he have children?
Yes, he has one.
Okay, what's that child's name?
Austin O'Brien Kinker, A-O-K.
A-OK.
That's what I-
That's interesting. How old is A-OK?
4 years old.
Now, what is your son's wife's name?
He's not married anymore.
Okay.
They're divorced.
What was her name?
Stacy.
Now, Stacy is the mother of A-OK.
Yeah,
Now, you have a daughter, you say?
correct. Her name is Sarah
Mhm.
Elizabeth Kinker.
Okay.
She was born in 77, which makes her 20,
25? 24, maybe?
she was born in March, so it makes her
24. She'll be 25 in March.
Yeah.
Okay. Does she have children?
No.
What does your son do?
He is Assistant Safety Director and Labor Foreman for Aristec.
Okay. What does your daughter do?
She is getting ready to go in the Navy.
Is that right?
As of maybe, she signed up to go in February.
Mm-hmm.
She was supposed to sign papers yesterday, moving that up to any time.
Interesting.
Yeah, she's going in the Navy.
Is she excited about it?
Yeah, I'm excited for her. She
That's
needs
good.
something.
Right. What were your parents' names? You said you were adopted.
Yeah, my dad's name, my adopted dad, that's all I know, was S. Samuel Paul Kinker, and he went by Paul.
Mhm.
He was an optometrist here in Portsmouth for about 15 years, I
Okay.
guess. My mother's name was Mary Elizabeth Kinker. Her
Okay.
maiden name was Corbin.
Corbin.
Mary.
C-O-R-B-I-N, probably?
Either B, yeah. And she was born in Ripley,
Okay.
Ohio.
Okay. Now, you were in the service, you said, and were you in the Army, Navy, Air Force?
Army.
Army? And did you enlist or were you drafted?
Enlisted.
Okay. When did you enlist? The date?
Actually, I enlisted in December of '68, but I didn't go until February of '69. I was in a delayed entry program. I was going to college at the time
Okay.
at Arizona State University. And,
How'd you end up in Arizona?
well, my mother and father left Portsmouth after I finished McKinley School here. McKinley at that time was 7th, 8th, and 9th,
Oh.
back in '65. And Dad wanted to move us to Arizona, so we all moved to Arizona.
Mhm.
And finished high school here, sophomore, junior, senior year.
Mhm.
And went to Arizona State. Had 3 scholarships to go to 3 different universities, and turned every one of them down, went to Arizona State.
All right, there you go.
Tried to be. But anyway, and then Mom and Dad divorced. Dad came back to Portsmouth. Mother eventually came back to Portsmouth shortly thereafter, and Dad went back out to Arizona. So anyway, it all.
They just couldn't live in the same town.
No, too short.
Okay. Well, you went in '69. When did you get out?
1980, it's been 11 years.
Okay. Do you remember the date you got out?
January.
January
16th
something.
to 2020, that's the 21st, back the 3rd week of January.
What was your rank when you got out?
Staff sergeant.
Was that
On
an
the
E?
E7 list.
Okay. So you were an E6 on the E7 list. And where did you do your basic training?
Fort Bliss, Texas.
Fort Bliss? My son just got back from there.
Yep.
Um,
Fort Bliss, sandy place.
El Paso.
Yeah.
And how long was basic training for?
8 weeks.
8 weeks, okay. Then after basic, what did you do? Did you have an
Went to
A?
Fort Gordon, Georgia.
Is that what we call AIT?
AIT, Advanced Infantry Training,
Okay, and what was your MOS?
95B 20, I think at that time.
What
or
is
10.
that?
Not, excuse me, 11B 10.
Oh, you were an infantry.
Infantry to begin with, yes.
Okay. So you went to Fort Gordon for infantry training.
And
How long was that?
almost 8 weeks.
Okay. Then what did you do?
Went to airborne training.
And that would be in the Fort Benning, is that correct? Okay. Now, airborne is what, 2 weeks or?
3 weeks.
3 weeks, yeah. And then after that,
I joined a unit called Delta Force, and at that particular time, they were attached to the 5th Special Forces out of Fort Bragg, North Carolina. And I went through that training,
okay,
and that was almost 12 weeks.
okay,
And my understanding at the time, there was a special unit developed, special ops they call it, for tactical operations inside the Republic of Vietnam.
okay.
And we were given, intensive training.
You weren't like with the line unit then, were you?
No, no.
Nothing like that?
No, not yet.
Okay.
And we did several different jobs.
So you went to Vietnam after that?
Yes, we took
Okay.
trips. We did not go over and stay like a lot of people got shipped over.
Stay
We'd
there
go
a year.
over and do a mission and then come back.
Okay.
Missions were
Where were you stationed as your
Fort
base?
Bragg.
Okay, so you would leave from Fort Bragg?
Right,
Go
in
to
the woods
Nam?
of Fort Bragg.
Go to Nam, come back to
Back.
Fort Bragg?
Yes.
Okay.
And then that eventually disbanded. Okay? And it was no longer needed, shut down just as quick as it started. And I left there and went to Korea.
Hmm.
And when I got to Korea, they said, well, do you want to go to the Joint Security Area? And I said, what's the Joint Security Area?
Joint Security.
JSA, they call it JSA, Joint Security. I said, well, what is the JSA? And they said, it's in Panmunjom. And I said, well, where's Panmunjom? They said, in the DMZ. And I said, well, where's the DMZ? And they said, it's $55 non-taxable, free and clear every month. I said, I'll go.
For $55, man.
For $55 extra, I'm in. You know, non-taxable, I'm in. And what it was a unit, it had like 210 men assigned to it. And you were an actual MP. You had to be over 6 foot to get your 6 foot or over. You had to have a certain amount of, your skill level had to be kind of high. I guess your pre-entrance exams or your, I forget what they call them now. GT score had to be above a certain level, which was to allegedly show your IQ, whatever. And it's above the DMZ, and it's actually a village called Panmunjom. And half the village is split in half, right down the line between North Korea and South Korea. And it's where they held the truce talks, where the North Koreans would come, South Koreans would come, which would be a delegation of usually military people. And they would actually have the truce talks right there. The table that they sat in was actually split down the middle.
Is that right?
It was really interesting because it was, one flag was the United Nations flag and the American flag, and on the other side was the North Korean flag. And what they did was, when North Koreans first got there, from what I understand, their flag was a little bit lower than the American flag. Well, at the next meeting, their flag was above the American flag. Well, then they kept going back and forth, and finally they couldn't even get the flags in the building. So they finally agreed on a particular height that the flags would be. But on the North Korean flag, it had 3 marble steps. On the American, it only had 2, which allegedly showed superiority. And the tallest building in the area was the Freedom Village, or the Freedom Building. I think that's what they call it. There was a lot of relics and people would come to visit. It was the tallest building in the joint security area. It was over above their checkpoint number 3, which overlooked the whole area. So when they built this new building, and it was taller than their building, they came along and put a big red star on top of their building and made it the tallest building in there. It's really ridiculous, but anyway, very interesting. Stayed up there 18 months.
You were in Korea 18 months?
18 months. Loved it.
Did you like it?
Loved it. I really did. I really enjoyed it. First 6 months was a little rough, but after I got used to the food and the people and stuff.
My son was in Korea. He loved it.
They brought this bus up. It was called the Korean Tourist Bureau. I got to be pretty good friends with one of the guys, Mr. Kim. They're all Mr. Kims, but anyway. Mr. Kim became a pretty good friend of mine, and I would go down to Seoul on my days off. And he would take me around Seoul. And I actually got to see a lot of stuff probably GIs would not see, because they didn't care about that. I always wanted to go to the bars and the women and all that stuff, and the rebel rouse. And I actually went into places that you would never even imagine that would be available. You know, walk in a door and there's nothing in there, and you walk up, there's, on the second level, there's looms of silk that you could buy, you know, stuff like that, if you were interested in that kind of stuff. Got to know the Korean people, got to, I don't know, really trying to understand them. Every place I went in the service, I tried to speak the language, at least attempt to, and got by with minor stuff in Korean. Korean is a hard language to learn. And so I spent 18 months over there and got out there.
Well, then 18 months, by that time you've got about 2 or 3 years in, something like that. And then after Korea, where did you go?
Well, it was funny. They sent 16 of us to Fort Gordon, Georgia.
Now let me get back. In Korea, you were an MP at that point?
I became an MP.
Okay.
And when I got promoted to Spec 4, I took the MPMOS then, called it on-the-job training. Then there was an E5 board, okay? And when you took E5 in the Army, when you went before the board, they had like 8 slots open, 8 they were awarding 8 sergeants stripes. 2 of them were MP, 4 of them were infantry, and 2 of them were artillery. That's the way they awarded them, okay? But when it got down to me, they awarded the 2 MP sergeants to 2 guys that worked in operations. They said, if you want to be E5, you got to take it in infantry. And I said, well, I was infantry. I said, I've got no problem with that. I'll just take it because I want the promotion to E5. So I stayed there as an E5 and in the MP or in the infantry. And after I left Korea, I went to Fort Benning. I got sent to Fort Benning to a mortar school. Mm-hmm. Well, when we got down there, it was odd. They sent us home for a weekend. They brought us back on a Monday, and they determined that 16, out of the 16 people that were sent there, only 14 were not qualified to be there. I made a mistake. And only 2 of them were qualified to be there because they had mortar MOSs, mortarman MOSs. And the one guy that was qualified to bid, he says, heck, I've been to Vietnam twice as a mortar sergeant. Why do I need your school? So we all decided, to get out of there, and we got orders to go to Vietnam. And I spent 2 weeks at home and off to Vietnam. I went.
What year would this be? Around 72 or 3? Okay.
71, right.
Okay.
At that time, the war was beginning to slow down some. And I was shipped to Camp Eagle, which is in Fubai.
What unit did you end up with?
101st Airborne Division. Delta Company, 1st to 327th. My platoon leader was a guy by the name of Finelli, Lieutenant Finelli. His dad was a general. And they'd been through the academy, West Point. And I spent, October, November, December, 3 months there. I remember we spent Christmas, got to go Christmas to China Beach after we saw the Bob Hope Christmas show. And
did you see Bob Hope?
Yeah, I see Bob Hope. And went down to China Beach and stayed down there for, I don't know how many days we were down there, 3 or 4. And
were you married by that time?
No.
All right.
And then got to, when I come back to 101st, they were standing down. They were getting rid of the 101st everyone said. So they shipped us, or a lot of us, to 1st Cab Division at Benoit. And I got an opportunity to become a member of Headquarters Company 75th Rangers. We were there at the, they put us in this big, I don't want to say stadium, it wasn't a stadium, it was a bunch of bleachers covered. And it was like an indoctrination to the 1st Cab Division, and I saw my lieutenant down there. And he was wearing a black beret, and he was a ranger, he'd gone to ranger school. And I said, hey, what are you doing down here? I said, where are you going? He told me. And he said, you want to come? And I said, well, yeah, I'd like to. And he said so. Anyway, I ended up over at Headquarters Company 75th Rangers. And they did recon missions there. They'd go out and they'd stay 2 or 3 days. They stayed no longer than 5 days unless they got contact. If they got contact, they did their mission and then came back. And it was to bring back any kind of information they had on whatever was there. The war was really standing down and bad.
How long were you in Vietnam then, at that point?
From October until April.
Then you came back to the States?
Came back to the States on leave, and I asked for a week extension.
Of your leave?
Yeah, of my leave. And I had to request it through Red Cross. And was approved, and I got a Twixt, very similar to this piece of paper right here, saying don't come back to Vietnam. Your unit's standing down. And they said, wait at your home. Do you remember the old stories where you say, wait at your home for your orders?
Yeah.
That's exactly what it said. We will be sending you orders momentarily, briefly.
Did you, when it was your home, was that in Arizona?
Yeah, I was staying with Dad. I was visiting Dad. And I stayed there for about an extra week, didn't get any orders, nothing. So I was running low on money, and I didn't feel like Dad, borrowing off Dad because I was in the military. So I went down to Fort Huachuca in Arizona, and I said, hey, I'm so-and-so, here's my ID card, home on leave, and I want to get some pay. And so they checked out my records. I said, okay, you're due so much pay. And I said, well, what am I supposed to do? I don't have any orders. Oh, I take that back. When I got those orders, when I got that Twix from Red Cross, they said, you're going to be stationed at Fort Knox, Kentucky. We will send you orders to your home. And I had my leave address on there and everything. So I went out to Fort Huachuca and told them, they gave me a partial pay. I said, well, when should I report to Fort Knox, Kentucky? They said, as soon as possible. So I waited about another week, thinking the orders would come. They never did come. So I took off and went to Ohio. And I bought my car. I bought my car by then. Went to Ohio, drove to Ohio with my dad and his new wife, and visited my mom. She was living here at the time. And she said, well, when are you supposed to go to Fort Knox? And I said, whenever I want to, I guess it's, so I kind of I felt like I was doing something wrong. So I went to Fort Knox. I showed up at Fort Knox, and I said, here I am. And they said, well, okay, we don't have any orders for you, but we know you're supposed to be here. So I went to personnel. They typed up, they got some extra records from somewhere, and assigned me to Fort Knox, and that's where I went to. I went to the MP company.
Back to military police.
Back to military police. Okay. And even though I was in E5 infantry, I went to the MP company there. I think it was the 530th MP company, not real, I think it was 530. And it was a garrison unit, it wasn't a combat unit, it was a garrison unit, white hat duty. And I stayed at Fort Knox, Kentucky for 3 years.
Okay. Did you ever go in the hospital down there?
No. Well, yeah, went there for, duty. I was hurt there once on a motorcycle.
That's where I was stationed, Ireland Area Hospital,
yeah.
Fort Knox.
I was hurt there on a motorcycle once, off post, and they brought me to Ireland. And my son was born there.
Oh, is that right?
Went to Lamaze classes there. My son was born there in 75.
Okay.
And then from Fort Knox, Kentucky, got orders to go to Germany. Interesting that when I was at Fort Knox, Kentucky, I got an opportunity to go to Northwestern Traffic Institute for a 3-week on-scene accident investigation. And at that time, I was a 95B. They changed the MOS
to
MP. And when I went to that school, there were only very few military people who got to go to that school. It was a 3-week thing. Everything was paid for. And when I got back, they added Q9 to my MOS. And I made it a traffic investigator. I became NCOIC of traffic. And I broadcasted over the radio station with a helicopter when they shut down the post. They shut down the main highway outside of Post, and they had to reroute traffic all the way through Post coming from Louisville. They set us up in a helicopter, and I got to broadcast over the radio. It was kind of neat. Like a traffic chopper. From 7 to 8 in the morning and 4 to 5 in the afternoon. It was pretty cool. And then I became there was something that came up for a game warden. I was a game warden there for a while.
There was a game warden at Fort Knox?
There was a game warden. It was called Rear Area MP.
What kind of game do they have?
Well, they had deer. They had a bunch of deer, yeah, and a big deer population at Fort Knox. And what did they call that rear area? No, that was at Fort Campbell. This was just like a game warden section there at Fort Knox, and it was interesting. Got there with the hunters, and they also had birds. You could rabbit hunt, But basically, their main stock down there was deer. And they were always in the ammo dump. You had to chase them out there. The deer would go over the fence, and there was a lot of poaching going on there. And illegal steel. They found
You found a still?
They found a
Moonshine still?
A moonshine still in Fort Knox, Kentucky. It was unreal. Then I stayed there till '76, and then I was married in '72. When I come back from Vietnam, I got married in December of '72. And like I said, we had David, and then I got stationed in Germany. I got sent to Germany. I was stationed in Kaiserslautern, Germany.
Were you in the military police there?
Yeah. And it was the 230th MP company. It ended up being the 230th MP company. It was kind of unusual. We started out being an MP station, and then I went to 3 weeks of German class. Got sent to, I'm pretty sure it was 3 weeks. It was a week or 2 weeks of what they call Gateway German. It's Das der Rathaus, nein, das ist nicht der Rathaus, das ist the Krankenhaus. You know, just basic German, Hochdeutsch they call it. And they extended it for about a week. They extended it, yeah, it was almost a week. And after that I went to work, after that school I went to work on the Autobahn. And I worked with the German police for a year. And that was really nifty.
German police?
Yeah, I went to actual work with the German police. I did not work with the MPs at all.
That's interesting. Did you wear a uniform or something?
Yeah, wore a uniform, wore an MP uniform, hat, gun, the whole 9 yards. And worked, my schedule was a German police schedule.
Well, what, he was just a traffic cop, wasn't he? Chasing
Yeah.
people on the Autobahn?
Well, they had that, and they had Bader-Meinhof gangs. They were having some trials there in Kaiserslautern. And every night, not every night, but there were certain nights that we had to escort the German judge home. That was interesting.
Okay.
Pick up a German judge at the courthouse and take him home. He was always armed, and it's a little different ballgame over there.
You're talking at that period that they were having some terrorist problems.
Yeah, the Bader-Meinhof gang, if you've ever heard of them or not, it was a terrorist group like the Red Faction Army, and they were very...
Very leftist oriented.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And like I said, I worked with the German police for a year, and I was assigned to a shift, and my boss was a guy by the name of Bender. Hauptwachtmeister Bender was his rank. Hauptwachtmeister was his rank, I think. Or no, he was a lieutenant. They called him a lieutenant, not lieutenant. He was a prisoner of war during World War II.
Which army? Russian or the American army?
The American Army. He was a prisoner of war in the American Army. And he said, I bet I've seen more of the United States than you have. And I said, I doubt it. But he was stationed, or they put him in a prisoner of war camp here in the States. And it was really kind of neat, because I was reading this comic book one day, and he came by and he told me in German that I ought to fashion myself after the SS trooper. It was like a G.I. Joe comic book. And I said, why? I said, haben Sie the War verloren, which means, haven't you lost, didn't you lose the war? we argued back and forth. Lovely people. The German people, I really got to know.
Did you like them?
I loved them.
How long were you there?
3 years.
Did you extend or something? 3 years?
No, 3 years was for a
Was that
married
the
couple.
total?
For a married couple, that was about it. And then I worked with Kriminalpolizei for about 6 to 8 months, and which is like their detective. In Germany, it's not like the States here. The police go to school, only one school. And when you go to that school, you're trained for all the police in Germany, except for your Kriminalpolizei work, which is like your detectives. So if you went to school, say Ohio was the same size as Germany, you would go to the school in Columbus. It was called the Polizei. And it was a school for policemen. And once you graduated from that school, you could be sent anywhere. You could be sent to Portsmouth City, Cincinnati, Columbus. You could be sent to the county of Scioto. And they called them Stadtpolizei, which was the city police, and Kreispolizei, which was the county police. And then the Kriminalpolizei was more or less the kind of the state police, everything. The big dogs, kind of the detectives. And I bought and sold drugs over in Germany.
Mm-hmm.
Got to buy and sell drugs, and I thought, boy, this is gonna be my
You were an
chance.
undercover
Yeah,
with it?
yeah. I said, it's gonna be my chance to grow a beard, my hair long. No, they wanted me to look like a GI.
Oh,
See, it was kind of neat, and got to work with him for about, like I said, 8 or 9 months, and then I went back to the MP unit. And from there, I ended up going to northern Germany for Reforger of 78, I believe it was 78. I left in 79. And I worked with we worked as a platoon. My squad worked about 15 miles away from the other element. And because I spoke German so fluently, they assigned me to work with the Royal Dutch Police, which is the hoop hoop of the Dutch people.
mm-hmm.
And the guy was my counterpart. At the time I was an E5. My counterpart was a Dutch policeman who spoke no English, none. And he spoke no German. He spoke only Dutch. His second in command spoke no English, but did speak German. So here I was, an American in northern Germany, speaking German to a Dutch policeman so that we could get our stuff together while they were, directing traffic and what we wanted done and how they wanted to do it, and it was a mess, but it worked. It worked. It was really neat to talk to the Dutch.
Were you stationed in Hamburg in here?
No. I was stationed in Kaiserslautern is where I was stationed,
But
we
when
had
you were
Reforger.
where was that?
It was up near Bremen.
Uh-huh.
All up, they were bringing in the tanks and stuff like that.
My daughter lives in Hamburg.
Oh, really? I loved it over there.
She's
I'm up.
liked Germany at first, and she's getting kind of tired of it.
My mother came over and we went down to Munich
Mm-hmm.
and Garmisch, Partenkirchen down in there. Oh, that's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
It's prettier than the books. And it's the Alps and oh God, it's just
Well,
absolutely.
you're getting close to 79, and you say you left Germany in 79?
Uh-huh.
Where did you go to?
Fort Knox, Kentucky.
Fort Knox. Back to Fort Knox.
Yeah, I was stationed with.
Why back to Fort Knox? Is there any particular? That's
No,
just what your order said.
That's just what my order said. And I went back to Fort Knox, and I was first assigned to the 101st MPs there, and and they worked in conjunction. Wait a minute, I take that back. I was assigned to the Garrison MP unit there, which was like the 530th or 230th or something. 55th, I can't remember, but it was the Garrison unit. There were 2 MP units there. There was a Garrison, which handled the white hat duty, and then the 101st. And they were in the same building, but different sides of the building. I was first assigned to the Garrison unit. And later on, I was transferred to the 101st unit. I don't know when that took place. I can't really tell you. It was sometime during that year. I was transferred over to the 101st, and then I went to work Garrison duty, just white hat duty, and then I ended up being what they call ramps, NCIC of ramps, which was rare AMPs. And it was like a game warden station.
Oh.
And I redesigned that back office up, and by then it was time for me to get out.
What do you mean, time to get out?
Well, the Army was changing. It really changed. It changed since '68 of being the disciplined Army. I'm not saying the Army wasn't disciplined there, but it was being changed. And I didn't particularly care for it.
Did you like the Army?
Loved the Army. And I loved it overseas, especially.
As you look back, do you wish you'd stayed in?
Yes.
I sometimes think about that.
Oh, I'd have been retired.
Yeah.
I'd have been retired in 1988.
Um,
And all I had to do was stay 9 more years.
What's the worst thing that ever happened to you in the service?
Worst thing that ever happened to me in this service. I suppose was really scared. Be honest with you, I was scared. And having to rely on other people to get me out of that situation, even though I was in charge of people, I couldn't move where we were at. I had to rely on other, when we called in this airstrike, this Cobra strike, he was firing like 20 yards in front of us, so it kind of scared me. I said, you might want to move that out just a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think that was probably the worst thing that ever happened to me in the military.
What's the best thing?
Education, being able to be on my own, the adventures, the people that I met, being able to speak German. You know, heck, I took side trips when I was in Germany, and when you stand and look back on it, I was in Korea, North Korea, if you want to call it that, because I actually stepped in North Korea, Japan, Hong Kong, Taipei, Vietnam, some other places, Thailand, Taipei, Taiwan, went to Australia on leave, got to go there, been Hawaii, all 50 states, North America, not South America, all 50 states, Canada, Mexico. Over in Germany, I went to Sweden, Norway, Denmark, England, Scotland, Ireland, France, Belgium, Luxembourg,
Wow.
France, Germany, Italy, and Switzerland.
Wow.
In northern parts, but I can actually say I've been there. You know, and that's, and I never had any problems when I was in Germany. Never had any problems with anybody. Once they found out I spoke German, I was able to speak German, even in France, Germany, Austria, northern Italy, Switzerland.
Talking about problems, when you got back from Vietnam, did you have any problems wearing the uniform, civilian?
One time, I did. I came back home on leave, and I belonged to this special ops unit. And I went to pick up my cousin, who was going to Arizona State at the time. And we were going to go have lunch. Him and I were buddies. And he was going to school there. I was sitting outside the Memorial Union building. And I was in my uniform, but I didn't have any clothes per se at the time. And they had a demonstration, an anti-Vietnam demonstration. And a bunch of these radicals were. And they marched right by me. I was sitting there in this uniform. And I had some, they knew I knew the Vietnam, it was obvious. And I sat there and kept my cool. One, because I didn't want my cousin to get kicked out of college. One, because of me. One, because of my dad. I was doing fine until this idiot, I guess you might want to call it, came right up to me. The only one out of the whole group had this squirt gun and was going rat-tat-tat in front of me and called me a baby killer. And I nacked him pretty good.
Johnny went?
Down he went.
What happened?
They taught us a lot in special ops.
What happened then? Did you?
I just left him. My cousin came along and said, we need to get out of here. And I left.
Good idea. Do you still have your uniform?
No.
What'd you do with it?
Well, I don't know. Somewhere between my mother's house and me, and my mother dying, I don't know where it's at. I always wanted to know, because something happened to it, and I don't know what. I don't know what happened to it. She did have it. I know she had it packed out in a shed. She had it packed real nice, and the shed's leaked on some of my stuff. And I don't know whether that was some of the stuff that got ruined or what. There was a lot of my music. See, I played the organ for years, and a lot of my music got thrown away because it got ruined. I don't know whether she threw it away or not. I do not know.
What decorations did you have?
I had the National Defense Ribbon, Vietnam Campaign, Vietnam Service, Armed Forces Expeditionary Medal, Good Conduct Medal, 3 awards, Army Commendation Medal, Bronze Star and Silver.
And Silver Star. Do you have those medals, or were those on your?
They were on the uniform.
Uniform somewhere? You saw Bob Hope. Who else did you see famous? Ever see Westmoreland?
Nope.
Anybody else famous?
General William Starry. I don't know whether he was ever famous or not. I got to see Secretary of State now, Colin Powell.
Yeah, Colin Powell. What was he, just lieutenant back then, or captain, or what?
I believe he was in charge of, I don't know what he was in charge of, but I did remember seeing him. And I got to see